Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
Tonight, on First at 9 this Tuesday the 28th of January 2025. Strong protest. India lodges strong protest after Sri Lankan Navy fires at Indian fishermen disobeying the law. Ongoing discussion. Government in discussion with India's Adani Group to reduce power purchasing cost to below 6 US cents from the proposed wind power plant. Managing waste. Japan provides grant to strengthen waste management capacity. New feat. Johan Pires becomes first Sri Lankan to summit Antarctica's highest mountain.
Chilo Dairy, Sri Lankawama Kiren Perata. Obe Vishwasi Dinu Sensodyne, then Langamati Pharmacy in Labagata Hacker.
Kanta parisan karagattොත් අපි පරිසම්.
Asian Paints Causeway Aquasafe Vesat Mattu Gatharat Disney.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9 on Sri Lanka's most trusted news source, Derana. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In your top story tonight, Cabinet spokesman Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa said that the government is in discussions with India's Adani Group to reduce the per-unit purchasing cost from the proposed wind power plant in Sri Lanka to below 6 US cents. He made this statement during the Cabinet briefing today. On a separate note, Minister Dr. Jayatissa mentioned that the local government elections are expected to take place in April this year.
සභා ඡන්දයක් එහෙම තියෙන්න කල්පනාවක් තියෙන මේ අවුරුද්දේ අවතවා
ඉස්සෙල්ලා ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණය කියලා තියෙන හැටියට පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණය පවත්වලා අවසන් කරන්න ඕනි.
First, according to the verdict of the Supreme Court, we must hold the local government elections before the provincial council elections. Once the local government elections are conducted, we can proceed with the provincial council elections. The reason we could not hold the provincial council elections earlier is that we need to amend the electoral system governing them and obtain approval from Parliament. At the moment, our focus is not on the electoral system for the provincial council elections, but rather on conducting the local government elections. The Supreme Court has issued its verdict to the Speaker, and once the Speaker presents it to the Parliament, we will bring the necessary legislation to Parliament and proceed with the elections. Accordingly, we hope to conduct the elections sometimes in April, and the Election Commission will announce an appropriate date.
දමනේ අඩු වෙලා තිබෙන බව වාර්තා වෙනවා. ඒකට සාපේක්ෂව බඩු මිල අඩු වෙන පාටක් නැහැ. මේ පිළිබඳව මොකක් හරි සැලසුමක් තිබෙනවද?
There have been price increases in certain goods. For example, regarding rice, we have decided not to remove the control price no matter the circumstances. There is currently an issue with the red raw rice, which we expect to stabilize in the next 2 weeks. This season, we anticipate a harvest of 700,000 metric tons of red raw rice, and we are addressing the situation systematically. If any party exploits this situation for profit, the Consumer Affairs Authority is conducting raids to curb such practices.
මිලදී ගැනීම ගැන දැන් පහුගිය දවස් ටිකේ දිගටම සාකච්ඡා කරා. සමහර තැන්වල අඩුවට මේ මිලදී ගන්නවා රුපියල් 110 115 වගේ ගන්න. සමහර තැන්වල වැඩි මිලටත් යනවා. ඇයි මිල නියම කිරීම ප්‍රමාද වෙන්නේ?
The harvest has not yet fully entered the market. Announcing a guaranteed price at this stage would negatively impact farmers. When setting the guaranteed price, we must consider both the farmers' production costs and their living expenses for the next 6 months. Once the harvest starts entering the market, prices are expected to decrease further. We remain committed to maintain a fair guaranteed price for farmers while keeping the control price unchanged.
තුමා වාහන ආනයනයට අවසර ලබා දෙමින් ගැසට් නිවේදනයක් නිකුත් කරා. දැන් මේ ක්‍රියාවලිය දැන් කොහොමද ඉදිරි සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ?
We have officially announced the procedure for granting import permissions. This will likely lead to an increase in vehicle prices, as you may already be aware. We are managing this process by considering the available foreign reserves and the amount of dollars we can afford to spend. We have held several discussions with vehicle importers and the Ministry of Finance and informed them of the relevant tax policies. If they have further questions, they are encouraged to contact the Deputy Minister of Finance. Currently, imports are categorized into 3 groups. Imports under the 3rd category will begin in February. At present, there are no plans to discuss other categories beyond these 3.
ජනාධිපතිතුමා කිව්වත් 1.2 billion dollars වලට අඩුවෙන් තමයි vehicle import මේක තියාගන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ කියලා.
Yes, that is the maximum amount we can currently allocate. This decision considers not only our foreign reserves but also the revenue that this initiative will generate.
ගිය සතියේ අදානි සුළං බලාගාර ව්‍යාපෘති ගැන කතාවට ලක්ුණා ඒක කැන්සල් වුණා කියලා ඊට පස්සේ ඔබතුමා ඒක නිවැරදි කරලා තිබ්බා. නමුත් ඒ power purchasing agreement එක කියන්නේ ඩොලර් 7.8.26ට ගන්නේ power purchasing agreement එක අතටම සස්පෙන්ඩ් කරලාද මොකක්ද ඒ තත්ත්වය?
The government believes that $0.0826 per unit is excessive. Discussions are ongoing to bring this cost below $0.06 per unit. This project has not been cancelled. Our objective is to reduce cost and we are confident that this can be achieved.
ඔබතුමා පහුගිය දවසක පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේදී විස්තර සහිතව සඳහන් කරා හිටපු ජනාධිපති මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමාට ලබා දීලා තියෙන නිල නිවස සම්බන්ධයෙන් රජය මේ සම්බන්ධයෙන් ඉදිරි ක්‍රියාමාර්ගයකට යනවාද එහෙම නැත්නම් මේක මේ මාධ්‍ය සංදර්ශනයක් විතරද?
This is not a media gimmick. We have presented the facts both inside and outside Parliament and request the vacation of the residents. For instance, Hema Premadasa, the wife of late President Ranasinghe Premadasa, vacated her residence. Similarly, former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Ranil Wickremesinghe also vacated their official residences. Therefore, no separate laws should apply to former Presidents Chandrika Bandaranayake Kumaratunga, Maithripala Sirisena and Mahinda Rajapaksa.
මං හිතනවා චන්ද්‍රිකා කුමාරතුංග මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන සහ මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ විතරක් අමුතු නීතියක් අවශ්‍ය නැහැ.
පිරිපුන් ජීවිතයකට ඔබ සමගින් පෙරට Union Assurance.
Welcome to Cinnamon Life, South Asia's biggest entertainment hub, where awe awaits.
චන්දුරුසුමේ කාගෙන් මනාපේ සිග TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
Sadaharita Plantations Limited, celebrating 22 years of your trust.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
Responsibility to look after our health.
The best nutritional supplement for diabetic patients with no added sugar. Maliban Vitagen. Stay healthy for a good reason.
Japan has agreed to extend a grant of 300 million yen to strengthen waste management capacities of local government institutions in the western, northern and eastern provinces. With that, we have more details on key decisions taken by the Cabinet of Ministers at this week's meeting.
Recommendations of the Finance Commission on principles regarding resources required by provincial councils, as well as allocating grants to each provincial council from the 2025 budget, will be tabled in Parliament. The Cabinet of Ministers approved the proposal, which includes required recurrent and capital expenses as recommended by the Finance Commission for the allocation of grants from the 2025 budget for each provincial council. In the meantime, several Sri Lankan universities are to enter into memoranda of understanding with foreign universities following approval from the Cabinet of Ministers. The MOUs are expected to facilitate combined research programs, organizing collaborative workshops and conferences, exchange of research and education programs. Meanwhile, government is slated to accept a grant of 300 million yen extended by the government of Japan for the procurement of 28 garbage compactors to strengthen the waste management capacity of local government institutions in the western, northern and eastern provinces. In the meantime, the government will implement the new Sapiri Rural Credit Scheme Sarusara through the Department of Development Finance as an annual program commencing from 2025. The credit scheme is expected to fulfill capital requirements of small and medium-scale farmers engaged in short-term crop cultivation. The Cabinet of Ministers approved the extension of a China-backed project facilitating the construction of hospital complexes and providing medical equipment until the 31st of December 2025. The project entails the construction of complexes comprising specialized units at 13 hospitals island-wide.
President Anura Dissanayake assures that Sri Lanka remains dedicated to working alongside China to achieve shared aspirations. The head of state made this statement in a special message issued ahead of the Chinese New Year celebration. Meanwhile, in other meetings attended by the President, several decisions were made regarding Sri Lanka's export development and revenue collection.
Under the theme Customs Delivering on its commitment to efficiency, security and prosperity, with President Anura Dissanayake in attendance as the chief guest. During the event, the President presented merit certificates issued by the World Customs Organization to 20 customs officials in recognition for their outstanding contributions to special operations.
2024 is the year during which customs collected the highest revenue in its history. The 1.533 trillion rupee revenue achieved during the year was a considerable increase compared to the 970 billion rupees collected in 2023. During the recent past, custom officials faced various challenges in executing their duties to collect revenue for the state in line with government's objectives. We are especially taking steps to expedite the digitalization of the customs.
This year, we must achieve a revenue to GDP ratio of 15%. To that end, the customs has been set a revenue target of 2.55 trillion rupees. The budget proposal is currently being prepared and we intend to grant a considerable salary increment. Every time reforms are about to be implemented, a conflict arises between state officials and the political authority. Therefore, we have been unable to implement many legal and structural changes at the right time. Every decision taken by myself or the current political authority is intended to advance the country and improve the quality of life of its citizens. At the same time, a significant number of containers are stranded at the port as they cannot be cleared. Currently, annual transshipments amount to about 7.8 million containers. Our target is to increase it to 11.3 million by 2030. The maritime market has become competitive due to the efficiency brought about by recent development. If we fail to capitalize on this competition due to container congestion worsening, we would have squandered our natural potential. The Customs Department has one of, if not the biggest responsibility to fulfill in this regard.
Meanwhile, the Export Development Council of Ministers convened yesterday at the Presidential Secretariat, chaired by President Anura Dissanayake, marking the resumption of the committee's activities after 28 years. Key decisions and discussions at the meeting included establishing a VAT refund system at the airport for goods purchased by tourists, replacing the manual scanning system at the Katunayake airport with an automated system to address delays and inefficiencies in the inspection of export products, and providing export incentives for export of gems and jewellery by identifying the correct export value through an appropriate method. Meanwhile, discussions were held regarding providing customs duty concessions on raw material imports to promote the export of locally manufactured electronic equipment and devices. President Dissanayake directed officials to take the necessary steps to increase export revenue to $36 billion by 2030. Meanwhile, today, President Dissanayake chaired the meeting of the Board of Governors of the President's Fund. During the meeting, approval was granted to extend the fund services to rural areas through a streamlined process coordinated via Divisional Secretariat officers. Meanwhile, in order to address surgical delays in government hospitals, the Council proposed facilitating surgeries outside regular working hours and offering incentives to medical staff involved in these after-hours procedures with funding provided by the President's Fund.
Fast-track your career from O-levels with eSoft.
ඩයබටිසෝල් සීනිවලින් පරිස්සම් වන ඔබට අමතක නොවන පෝෂණය.
ප්‍රයිම් ගෲප් ලංකාවේ ප්‍රථම වතාවට හඳුන්වා දෙන ලෑන්ඩ් ලීසින් ලේසියෙන් මීටමක්.
Single 1111 up to 60% off from the 11th November to the 17th of November.
කැලණි වයර් කිසිගින්නක් නෑ.
කිසිගින්නක් නෑ. කැලණි Fire Shield Wire.
A special traffic plan will be in effect in Colombo from tomorrow until the 2nd of February in view of rehearsals for the 77th Independence Day celebration. The traffic plan will commence at 8 a.m. on school days and from 6 a.m. on other days and will be in effect until 12 noon.
A special traffic plan will be in effect in several areas in Colombo from 6 a.m. to 12 p.m. In view of Independence Day rehearsals, the traffic plan will be in place commencing tomorrow, the 29th of January, up until the 2nd of February. However, on school days, the relevant traffic plan will only be in effect from 8 a.m. onwards. As per the new traffic plan, entering Vidya Mawatha through Vijay Rama Mawatha in Cinnamon Gardens and entering Maitland Place through Baudaloka Mawatha will be temporarily prohibited. Entering Premakirti Dialvis Mawatha through Baudaloka Mawatha in Cinnamon Gardens and entrance to Sri Lanka Foundation Institute Road through Stanley Vijaysundaramawatha in Cinnamon Gardens will also be prohibited. Meanwhile, vehicles will not be permitted to enter the Independence Square through the Independence Roundabout in Cinnamon Gardens and the Independence Roundabout through Maitland Crescent Junction in Horton Place. Entrance to the Independence Roundabout through Maitland Crescent from R.G. Senanayaka Mawatha and entrance to Maitland Crescent through the Independence Roundabout will also be prohibited.
The Attorney General has filed indictments against Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna MP Namal Rajapaksa on charges of criminal misappropriation of 70 million rupees in connection with the controversial Krish project. The indictments have been forwarded to the Colombo High Court by the Attorney General, alleging that Namal Rajapaksa misappropriated funds by receiving 70 million rupees from the Indian real estate company for the development of rugby in Sri Lanka. The Financial Crimes Investigation Division previously presented facts related to the case to the Fort Magistrates Court. Namal Rajapaksa, who was previously arrested as a suspect in the case, was granted bail after being produced before court. Former Member of Parliament Janaka Vakkumbara revealed that former President Mahinda Rajapaksa has extended an open invitation to all members who left the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna to unite in order to contest the upcoming local government elections. He made these remarks while speaking to media following a special discussion held at former President Rajapaksa's official residence.
A special discussion was held last evening at former President Mahinda Rajapaksa's official residence in Vijayarama. The meeting saw the participation of members of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna and several members who contested the 2024 presidential election under the symbol gas cylinder.
More than 20 members from our political camp attended the discussion today. Only a few members were invited today. The meeting with other members will take place in 2 days. Who evaluated the rent of this residence? I'm not sure if someone would be willing to pay 4.6 million rupees in rent to live here. In the past, some politicians' homes were burnt down. The people who assessed the rent had to be dispatched to analyze the damage to those properties. He extended us an open invitation to rejoin the party that we created. We will hold more talks on the possibility of joining the SLPP once again to contest the upcoming local government elections in order to defeat the government. We elected Ranil Wickremesinghe as the president of the country following discussions with the party.
We intend to join with all political parties to contest the upcoming local government elections. No, we have already held discussions with several other parties, including Dilip Jayavira, Sarvajana Balaya, and those who contested under the symbol chair. Unification talks were also held with Champika Ranawaka, and now we are planning to hold discussions with former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. No, not anymore. However, a meeting will also be held with former President Ranil Wickremesinghe on Thursday. Mahinda Rajapaksa is extremely valuable to the nation and must be protected at all costs. Another struggle will arise in the country if something ever happens to him.
In the event of a crisis, everyone should unite. This is the leader who ended a decades-long war. This is obviously a political retaliation. All of us are working together to establish a strong opposition. Another round of discussions between the United National Party and the Samagi Jana Balabege is scheduled for tonight. While the meeting was initially planned for tonight, the location of the meeting was not revealed. The two parties entered discussions after it was widely proposed that the UNP and SJB should join forces for the upcoming local government elections. It is reported that a number of proposals made during previous discussions are to be reviewed with the leaders of both parties. Accordingly, this will be the third round of talks between the two parties. Two Indian fishermen engaged in illegal fishing within Sri Lankan territorial waters were injured in a naval gunfire incident in the Kankasanture Sea area. In response, the Indian High Commission in Colombo issued a statement stating that the acting Sri Lankan High Commissioner in New Delhi was summoned to the Ministry of External Affairs earlier today, where a strong protest was lodged. The Sri Lankan Navy, addressing the incident, stated that during the arrest, the Indian fishermen acting as an organized group attempted to assault naval personnel and tried to seize a firearm from a naval officer. In the ensuing struggle, an accidental discharge occurred, injuring two fishermen. Meanwhile, Cabinet spokesman Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa commented on the issue, affirming the government's commitment to protecting the fishermen in the northern province. He added that discussions are ongoing to reach a diplomatic resolution to the matter.
Sri Lanka Navy issued a statement noting that the Northern Naval Command observed a cluster of Indian fishing boats poaching in the Sri Lankan waters off Valvatithure, Jaffna in the dark hours of Monday, the 27th of January. It said the Northern Naval Command subsequently mounted a special operation deploying naval craft to prevent the fishing boats from entering island waters. During this operation, the Sri Lanka Navy said its officials seized an Indian fishing boat that continued to remain in Sri Lankan waters while engaged in illegal fishing activity. The operation also led to the apprehension of 13 Indian fishermen aboard the fishing boat. The Sri Lanka Navy said its boarding team was compelled to conduct non-compliance boarding as the Indian fishing boat continued to maneuver aggressively without complying with the Navy's lawful orders during the process of taking the boat into custody. The statement went on to say that while boarding, the Indian fishermen attempted to assault naval personnel and made an attempt to snatch a firearm from a naval officer, endangering the lives of the naval personnel. SLN said during the altercation, an accidental fire took place, causing slight injuries to 2 Indian fishermen. Following the incident, the Navy has transferred the injured fishermen to the Jaffna Teaching Hospital for further treatment. Meanwhile, the Navy has lodged a complaint with the Kankasanture police regarding the incident. Meanwhile, the Indian High Commission, in a formal statement issued today, condemned the incident, emphasizing its concern over the matter. The Indian Ministry of External Affairs also summoned the Sri Lankan Acting High Commissioner to the External Affairs Ministry in New Delhi to lodge a protest over the incident. The Indian High Commissioner in Colombo said a strong protest was lodged with the diplomat against the incident. Meanwhile, speaking at the Cabinet media briefing today, spokesperson Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa addressed the matter.
This is a long-standing issue and we have had numerous discussions on this matter at the diplomatic level. Over the past 2 months, the Sri Lankan Navy has intensified its effort to arrest and conduct raids on illegal fishermen. We are doing our utmost to address this issue, considering the inconveniences and unfair challenges faced by our fishing community in Jaffna. It is important to note that this is not merely a diplomatic issue, it is also a livelihood conflict between North Indian fishermen and Sri Lankan fishermen. Therefore, resolving it solely at the diplomatic level may not be entirely feasible. However, we remain committed to protecting our naval resources and supporting our fishermen. Discussions are ongoing to find a balanced and sustainable resolution.
Welcome back. A Sri Lankan mountaineer Johan Peiris has achieved a remarkable milestone, becoming the first Sri Lankan to summit Mount Vinson, the highest peak in Antarctica. Peiris, who is on a mission to conquer the tallest mountains on all 7 continents, is expected to attempt to scale Denali, the highest mountain peak in North America, in May this year. Johan Peiris has reached the summit of Mount Vinson, the highest mountain in Antarctica, at 4,892 meters, becoming the first Sri Lankan to achieve the feat. Peiris is currently on a mission to complete the 7 Summits Challenge by conquering the tallest mountains on all 7 continents. In 2018, Peiris made history as the second Sri Lankan to summit Mount Everest. To date, he has successfully scaled the highest peaks in 4 continents: Mount Kosciuszko in Australia, Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, Mount Elbrus in Europe and Mount Everest in Asia. Despite facing numerous hardships, including life-threatening situations during his previous attempt, Johan is expected to attempt to scale Denali, the highest mountain peak in North America, in May this year. In business news, Fitch Ratings upgraded the national long-term rating of Ceylon Electricity Board and CEB's senior unsecured debentures to A from BB+. In a stock market filing, the CEB said the national long-term rating of Ceylon Electricity Board and CEB's senior unsecured debentures have been upgraded to A from BB+. According to Fitch, the upgrade of CEB's national long-term rating with a stable outlook follows the upgrade of the Sri Lankan sovereign's local currency issuer default rating. This is based on Fitch's assessment that there is a very high likelihood that CEB, as the country's monopoly electricity transmitter and distributor with a high share of generation, would continue to receive government support. The Colombo Bourse experienced positive sentiment and increased activity today in contrast to yesterday's trading session. However, some volatility was experienced during the first half of the day. The benchmark ASPI closed at 17,120, marking a 75-point gain. Increased high net worth and retail investor participation was witnessed during the session. Brown's Investment, Richard Peary's, H&B, Central Finance and LOLC emerged as the top positive contributors to the index. Turnover stood at 6.4 billion rupees, marking a 14.4% decrease from the monthly average of 7.4 billion. Capital goods sector was the most significant contributor to turnover with a 20% share, followed by the banking and food, beverage and tobacco sectors jointly contributing 32%. Foreign investors remained net sellers with net outflow of 300.1 million. Welcome back. Now, invoking blessings for the new year, a special mass was conducted today at TV Derana headquarters in commemoration of Derana's 20 years of service. The holy event was presided over by Auxiliary Bishop of the Colombo Archdiocese, His Eminence J.D. Anthony.
As part of the series of programs organized in view of the 20th anniversary of Derana, a special mass was organized to invoke blessings for the new year. The holy event, which was held at the Derana head office this morning, was presided over by Auxiliary Bishop of the Colombo Archdiocese, His Eminence J.D. Anthony, and also saw the participation of Reverend Father Prasad Harshana of St. Aloysius Church, Boralla. The special mass saw the attendance of the founder of TV Derana, parliamentarian Dilip Jayavira, and other members of staff, including the board of directors.
The mission of media is of great importance. It has a substantial impact on the lives of the people. Derana Media Network has a special place in people's hearts. Derana has provided an immense service to the public through various initiatives, including Manusat Derana and other humanitarian aid initiatives. We are grateful to God as He guided you throughout the past 20 years as Derana moved forward while fulfilling the mission of media. We are also grateful to the Lord as Derana moves forward while preserving integrity and unveiling the truth for the public.
And that's all for tonight. Thank you for joining and have a good night.